Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of The Articulate Fly, and we're back with the last East Tennessee Fishing Report of the year with Ellis Ward. Ellis, how are you?
I am doing well, Marv. How are you?
As always, I'm just trying to stay out of trouble, and took a look at your weather, and you got to be pretty damn happy in East Tennessee.
Yeah, I think it was up to somewhere over 60 with gray skies and some rain. Both rivers are pushing some water, and my head has been, I'll restart that. I smell not great, and it is like a dead animal. And so that's sort of a testament to how much I've been fishing. I've just been working on bucktail whenever I can. And so I haven't really had my eye on the weather. Thankfully, I've gotten a bunch done the last few days, which has been a little painful. I did sneak out yesterday for a couple hours. All right, I went musky fishing for a few days last week too. But other than that, not been getting out as much, and changing that hopefully starting tomorrow. And you got to update me on my weather, so it sounds like we're gonna hang steady and then get to where it's not as cold as it was a few weeks ago, which I would consider to be unfishable. It's in the 20s, low 30s with wind. That's not bad for late December.
Yeah, so at least now everyone understands why you smell like BO and death, right?
Yeah, you could hear me hesitating a little bit as I decided how much detail to offer and how I smell, but it's sort of wet dog. And then, depends on, today was pretty humid, and I was washing I'm doing some deer belly as well. And, there was a cut or two that didn't get much exposure to borax when I first picked it up. So yeah, we'll stick with BO and wet dog.
Yeah. So, and you sandbagged us because you've been out musky fishing. What are you seeing on the water?
Yeah. I went out and actually hit some new water on the French Broad. It was a little too pushy, but it was good to be out. And, the musky fishing has been as good as it gets. And I know I talked about this last time. It's just been nice to feel and see that the musky herms are all still there after Helene, and there's nothing catastrophic that happened to the fishery up there. For the trout, I would say sort of the same deal, where we're in the winter pattern of dry fly fishing is midges, blue wings. And a couple weeks ago, right after we aired the podcast, I think this was 2 episodes ago, where I was talking about the finicky nature of the South Holston dry fly fishing. Had a guy on my boat who experienced exactly that. So, fishing like you're 18 or 20 is a sighter, and going down, we got a few on a 26, and at that point you're fishing 6.5x. You can fish 7x. You just got to be real careful on that hook set. Watauga is still pretty off. I would expect it's starting to generate with some of the rain we've gotten. They're pushing water through, and part of it is settling, but another part of it is there's this big chunk of sediment that came from runoff after Helene on the bottom of Watauga Lake that just needs to move. And it's unlike the other instances of muddy water on freestones where levels sort of drop and sediment settles and things clear up. So this is just we need the lake to release more water and push more of that sediment out. So that's happening right now, and it's down to like I don't know how to describe that, like a clay, a teal clay. That might make no sense, but it's still pretty off color and opaque, and we are awaiting, any big hatch activity, but it's right around the corner. And honestly, with pre-spawn or with post-spawn coming up and having that water be as off color as it has been, I'm excited. That's about as much as you can ask for.
Yeah, and got a question for you from Josh, and he wanted to get your thoughts on tips and tactics for fishing deeper, slower water for larger tailwater trout.
Yeah, well, there's a couple different avenues. It really depends on what your goal is, and so I've been thinking about this a bunch, and I may have talked about this, but when you go out and you're fishing, a big white fly or something like, a big swim fly, changer, swim bug, drunken disorder, or something like that. You're going out fishing for an eat, as opposed to, you get a 12-inch brown. It'll come out and smash one of those things. And then of course you get the big ones too. So I do just want to kind of have that preface that you can go out and hunt big fish knowing where they are, knowing where they're more likely to be, and understanding that the odds of it happening are pretty low. So fishing the deep and slow with streamers for big fish, I just want to be careful that I don't want the thought to be, streamer fishing in that specific scenario is the best way to get a big fish to commit. You may be better off. I mean, if it's deep and really clear, you might be better off doing a, size 24 midge off of an 8-foot drop or a 6.5x. Drop shot. There's guys have businesses and careers doing that on the South Holston for a bunch of the big lake run fish. And I have nothing against it as it's hard to do. It requires patience. There's stick-to-itiveness involved. You have to go out there and kind of set your eye on the prize and recognize that you're not going to get very many bites and you might get the big dog. I personally just don't enjoy fishing that way. So that's why you don't hear as much of it coming from me. But the deep, slow tailwater where it's also most of the time gin clear. The reason why that might be more effective is because getting a streamer to one of those fish where we're talking 5-6 feet down the water column, they aren't there because they are, and to, I guess for clarity, what I'm talking about would be fish holding mid-channel in the deepest part of some of these pools. So not adjacent to a weed bed, not on the bank, not near a rock. They're not going to move and they're protected. And sure, there's food nearby, but they're not there to eat. They're there to hold steady until it's time to eat, which is probably at night or high water. Um, and so it's those fish are less quote unquote predatory, not by their genetics, but just by their positioning. They're not there to eat right now. When you're when you're hitting some of these banks that are maybe 8-12 inches deep, but then drop off to maybe a foot or two in the medium speed water, and you see a big fish come out and try to take the rod out of your hands, that fish is waiting there and specifically waiting to do exactly that, versus the big fish in the deep slow. That requires a bunch of convincing. So on the streamer front, you want to think about, I wouldn't worry about longer leaders for spookiness, but for fly mobility, it does become important. So going, 15 pound, then 12 pound, and then giving it as much speed as you can. So two-handing, and it doesn't matter what you can do with a changer, but do it with a dungeon. Burning that thing across its line of sight if you're sight fishing it. And then there's also, weed beds and banks where if you take, for example, a drunken disorderly and, get that thing right down against the bank and dog walk it, every time you're hitting that, I refer to it as tap, 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 tap. Each time you're hitting that and it's walking back and forth, I'm moving my head back and forth right now. Every time it's doing that, it digs a little more, and it's one of the beauties of that fly is that even though it's buoyant, when you're walking the dog, it digs a little more each time. So you can get a presentation lower in the water column, and especially in those deep, slow pools. And I'm stealing this from Tommy, but you have a sales pitch that is so much more effective, so much more convincing than a couple pieces of marabou tied to a few hooks. And trying to change up and extend what those kills are. So, that tap, 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 tap is really tap, kill, tap, kill, tap, kill, tap, kill. Giving big pauses, letting that slack go, letting your sinking line pull it down. So your next little tap, it reorients and goes down. There's so much to explore with some of the, how can I find depth and do so in a convincing way other than let's fish a jig fly. That said, putting on something small, like a really sparsely tied marabou type streamer with some weight, and fishing it more like a jig. And then if you want to go ahead and cancel me, you can use a conventional rod, shout out TFO, and throw on a little jig, see what happens. It's effectively the same thing as nymphing.
You could even jig a Krelex, right?
Yeah. Oh God, absolutely. Man, that thing in saltwater, just bouncing across the bottom in front of a redfish. Yeah, there's call it whatever you want, but the presentations you can get with a little bit of weight and a sparsely tied whatever. What becomes the difficult part is doing it with fly line. And so nymphing, you bypass that because you just have tippet. There's that whole school of thought with the mono leader, or I'm sure there's a different name for it at this point, but basically bypassing the fly line itself and just using monofilament, which more or less is just Euro nymphing with streamers. I mean, whatever you want to do to get down there with something small and kind of wiggly is probably your best bet. And then if you do want to go bigger, I would say work in the drunken disorderly with really long casts, or anything from a changer to a Clouser minnow. Same, big casts, and get that butt up under your armpit and strip 2-hand burn.
There you go. Well, folks, we love questions on the articulate fly. You can email them to us or DM us on social media, whatever's easiest for you. And if we use your question, I will send you some articulate fly swag. And you'll enter a drawing for something cool from Ellis at the end of the season. And Ellis, it's the end of the season. So we actually have a drawing winner. I took everyone that sent a question in this year, did a random number generation with Google and came up with a number and pulled a winner out of a hat. But before we announce the winner, you want to let them know what they're going to win?
Yeah, just after you got me all fired up, watching a trout chase stuff in a flat. It's the right time of year. A full day trip with me and a variety of bucktail.
Yeah, that sounds horrible.
No, it's awful, and I put very little work into both products, so not proud to offer it.
There you go. And so the lucky winner is Jared, and it's either McCabe or Maccabee. So I got it wrong 50% of the time, and for that I apologize. But hopefully, the fact that you won a day on the boat with Ellis and some bucktails makes up for that. And we're going to keep doing this, folks, in 2025. So keep the questions coming in. It makes it fun to kind of, as I like to say, kind of find our people. And Ellis, before I let you go, you want to let folks know kind of what you're booking, now that you're the merchant of deer death, when the bucktails are coming on and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see which pictures I send you of sort of the in-process processing here. January and February are the times we're mid-December all of a sudden and have a number of chunks booked up in January and a few floaters in February. So I want people on the boat for sure then. And that's for trout. Musky's going to be cooking till late spring. And again, I'll continue pushing that through the summer. It's pretty rare that it gets too hot to fish. Bucktail, man, I have a bunch ready. It's just now I have to figure out colors, and we're going to say it's going to be a week or two out before the first push goes up on my website, which is elliswardflies.com. You can find me on Instagram at Ellis Ward Guides, and best way to reach out, talk trips, tails, whatever, is my cell phone at 513-543-0019.
There you go. And, folks, just a reminder, too, that we host our community on Patreon, and there are 2 tiers that will get you. One will get you a discount on bucktails, and another will get you an annual $100 guide credit with Ellis. So something to check out. And, as we're cruising into the end of 2024, I'm going to always tell you to get out on the water and catch fish, but I also want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, Ellis.
Merry Christmas, Marv.
Tight lines, everybody.